think about what we do here on Tech Path, we kind of dive into obviously the EV, AI, autonomy space. Tesla's been kind of the pretty much the 800-pound gorilla on the planet right now. They've convinced at least me. I'm a big Tesla fan in terms of I drive one. I've seen the evolution of where that car has come. Q1 comes around and a lot of things changed my mind as a Tesla lover, a Tesla investor, because I saw some things that seemed to have some cracks in the armor that I didn't anticipate at all. What were your thoughts about their Q1 earnings, and what was revealed that you would say we need to be very cautious here on what we're looking at?
Yeah, so Tesla, it's hard to, and I'm just like you, I'm a hardcore Tesla fan. I've owned 4 of their vehicles. I have the Tesla Kila and everything. I have been a super fan for a long time. I've been coming to my senses more recently, I would say, because the promises are just not actually coming to any material product. They haven't refreshed Model S and X in 8 years. They can't even figure out how to rewire and add a different screen back there. And yes, it's a different battery pack, but they're still tinkering with the thermal management there. And it's still going to look the same on the outside pretty much. They make Model 3 and Model Y are phenomenal products. How far does that take them? So,
right,
especially to compete in China, Tesla needs a lot more vehicles. They can't just produce one China-only vehicle. And yes, they've been selling really well, Model 3 and Model Y. By the way, there is a big issue in China with Tesla right now as a brand. And I don't know how bad that will sting for Tesla. It concerns me as an investor. But whereas a company like BYD, just in 2021, they've released 6 electric vehicles in just 2021. So the Chinese, and they're not the only ones. There are a bunch. If you just look at that Shanghai Auto Show, there are so many vehicles that were launched there. Yeah, and you didn't even know most of these companies existed. Probably most people don't. And so the Chinese, they have a lot of vehicles to choose from. Tesla has had a strong brand over there, but in terms of Tesla's first quarter earnings, I thought the financials were okay. The Bitcoin thing is interesting, and again, that's more of a gamble I see. But fine, lead the way there. But in terms of the earnings call, that was not good. I thought I've listened to every single Tesla earnings call since they went public, and that was the worst earnings call I've ever heard. Tesla did not, especially Elon Musk, did not sound confident in what he was saying. The 4680 cell,
that was something that kind of hit me is the confidence level with Elon. It was the first time I had actually noticed that there was a little bit of just not that conviction that he was going to solve all these issues. But you were mentioning on the 4680.
Yeah. So specifically on 4680, if Pierre hadn't asked that question at the end about 4680. Think about it. Tesla wasn't going to tell us anything about 4680. They weren't going to tell us a single thing. That should scare you. That should scare everyone. And that 4680 is so core to Tesla. And again, it doesn't even make sense, in my opinion, to make this cell that, sure, tablets is brilliant, but everything else is just kind of like a more high performance cell. Let's make batteries for a lot more cars, for that $25,000 model. And they can't even figure out, they sold like a few hundred of the $35,000 Model 3, and then they canceled that. So they need to focus more on, if they want to be a battery maker, then they should put more money into that and do it in a better way. But if they want to just buy their batteries from suppliers, that's fine. They can still be a phenomenal company. But yeah, they're kind of tiptoeing around some of these things. Anyone who knows me on Twitter knows that I am I'm not a believer on their robo-taxis with the current hardware. I think they're inherent blind spots. I drive one every day. I see what it can and cannot see. I also know that there are other companies out there that actually have robo-taxis already. So that part is, I don't bake that into their current valuation. But a lot of people do, and I think that could potentially be dangerous. But they're kind of frozen. It's in 2021. There's nothing to be excited about for Tesla. They had strong deliveries in 2021 that in the first quarter that was a big surprise, but nothing really to be excited about, especially from one of the most interesting companies in the world.
Yeah, and I think with Model 3 and Model Y, they're continuing the pace in which they're keeping up with the demand. I should say that there isn't a demand problem, that's for sure, with Tesla. But yes, the issue with the battery when Elon started saying essentially we're talking 18 months out for 4680, I was really surprised that he strung it out. Now, granted, there's people that go back and analyze the timeline and saying, no, that's what Elon said all the way from battery day. But at the same time, I've also seen the number of misses on, and I know I hear this all the time, that Model Y was delivered ahead of schedule. And I understand that, but this is one issue, one time in the entire history of Tesla that something was delivered ahead of schedule that I know of when I've been tracking this company. And trying to buy one of their cars for the past 6 years, when the Model S was in 2015, when I went out and drove that Model S, I was still unimpressed with what was happening. So 4680, I'm still worried about whether or not it happens. And 18 months is a long time in this innovation period that we're facing right now. 18 months turns to 24 months. That is a massive head start, if you want to call it, or allowing all of the Chinese automakers, as well as companies like VW, to really start putting the hammer down and going. The other thing is this full self-driving scenario, which has turned into me a snafu here. I just don't understand. It's been promised. It was promised last year. Then they roll out to 1,000 FSD beta testers very cautiously. You could see from just the number of videos that I've watched, probably 1,000 of these things. The car is definitely not there. Again, I know they're trying to get to the next version, which is a big drop that everybody's waiting on. Do you think FSD is going to happen this year at all? And when I say happen, meaning the buying public like me can just go over, say, boom, I want that for $199 a month, $299, $199, whatever that number is. When do you think that's actually going to happen?
So when you say FSD, that's Tesla's
full self-driving
brand
city
for
streets.
Full self-driving. Yeah. So full self-driving city streets, that's still a level 2 system. So that can't drop you off at work and operate autonomously as a robotaxi. That's what I always say that to the FSD, the level 5 robotaxi Tesla believers. I ask them, and again, I paid $8,000 for full self-driving package, knowing that it's just a convenient thing and it's kind of fun to see the updates. But I never expected that my car would generate income passively for me. I never thought that my car would. And so what I ask people is I say, when do you think, or do you think it's even possible that your car can drive you with you in the back seat to work, drop you off at work, and then operate as a robotaxi, make you $30,000 a year? And even the believers, it's difficult for them to answer that. So that's really the difference, right, between level 4 and level 5, and then level 2, where Tesla is, and you're right to call it FSD city streets. That's the final thing. That's when Tesla can recognize that now it's probably over $1 billion in deferred revenue that's just sitting there. And that's the difference. It's not a lot of money for them, actually, but that's the difference between a profitable quarter and an unprofitable quarter. So I don't think that, I think the beta, and people talk about version 9.0 like it's some magical thing. It's just the next version. They keep rewriting it. That's a bad term if they keep rewriting the software stack all the time. But yeah, version 9.0, fine. It will do a little bit better, and then they get rid of radar. That's actually better for phantom braking. That I agree with them on. But at the end of the day, I'm not ever going to put my family in the back seat of this car, and I'm surely not going to sit in the back seat. The car can't even drive itself in a parking lot. Yeah. I mean, how can it? So when you say full self-driving city streets, I think first quarter of next year, and maybe sooner, but then they may run into some regulatory hurdles, maybe not. But it just doesn't excite me. Like I get excited more about these companies that are selling 250 buses a week and doing these types of skyrail things, and even some of the other Chinese EV makers, they're just doing more exciting things. You can control your drone from a Xiaopeng now, and you can it's a different world. It's definitely fun to follow everything that Tesla's doing, but sometimes I think people should expand their horizons on this.
Okay, so that's going to be that'll be a big miss if FSD is not delivered this year. The version of City Streets FSD, not full autonomy, but the point where someone can say, hey, okay, I want to get full self-driving in its capacity of not fully autonomous but full self-driving city streets. I really kind of liked the option they had, which was kind of that advanced autopilot, which gave you at least lane change and some of those elements that are very, very helpful. Phantom braking is a real problem. It happens to me all the time on autopilot. It's not something, and it's very scary. If you've ever been in a Tesla going 80 miles an hour and that thing phantom brakes, believe me, everybody in the car is saying, okay, turn off autopilot. That's how startled they usually are. So those kind of scenarios definitely have to be resolved. 4680, the slow run up on this concerns me. FSD missing dates and times. What really concerns me is we follow the, and I'm sure you probably do as well, but we follow the movement in their engineering team. And if you look at the engineering team that was there before Andrej Karpathy, remember everybody loves Karpathy in terms of he is the man when it comes to full self-driving, but there was a guy before him that left, and he was the guy that actually brought the technology to Tesla. So you look at that, and then the number of engineers that have been leaving that company over the last couple of years, and I understand, I worked for Bill Gates, I understand working for people like Elon is hard unless you're willing to really pressure down. But at some point, you've got to be able to have an engineering army to be able to address these AI issues that we are going to be faced with. Do you think that is a problem for Tesla going forward? Because that's not a problem in China right now. China being the number one, STEM graduate country in the world, they have, an AI and engineering army over there. Here in the U.S. and Tesla's home field, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we have at Snowbull, we have developed an in-house Tesla jobs tracker, actually. And I've actually been toying with making it public just for free because it's very cool. And we have this for a lot of companies, but everyone loves Tesla. And I think maybe I will actually make it public maybe next week. And you can track sometimes even where in the factory these jobs and the jobs postings are. And it's pretty interesting to see sometimes how fast the turnover is, because Tesla's pretty notorious for having high turnover, especially, the highest really is their autopilot team. And then engineering is pretty high turnover. And so you can visualize it, and it is an issue for Tesla. That being said, I've spoken with countless people that are engineers that would love to work for Tesla. And the thing right now is with Austin, there are a lot of engineers in Austin and in the greater area. And Tesla's hiring a lot of engineers in that area, but they're only hiring them as 1099s for only 6 months. And that's not enough. These people, you need to treat engineers like they want to be treated at other companies. You need to give them stock options. You need to really have the whole Silicon Valley vibe that you would have, not just in Silicon Valley though. Giga Shanghai is pretty good. That's large. There's nothing really around that in southern Shanghai, but they've built a little community there. But in terms of retaining engineers, I think it's a struggle for everyone, and some may see Tesla as a stepping stone in their careers. Some may see other companies as a stepping stone to get to Tesla. I don't see it as a tremendous negative
or a disadvantage. All right. Well, okay. So let's look at your thoughts on kind of the development of the two key manufacturing points that they have to get in play to be able to beat the big numbers. Obviously, Austin looks like it's delayed a little bit, so it doesn't. I don't anticipate we're going to see a Cybertruck this year. What are your thoughts on Austin?
So it sounds like Austin may be a little ahead of schedule in terms of the actual building. The 4680 cells are the whole key
That's the
ingredient there,
holdup,
though. And
right?
we
Yeah.
know that that's not coming this year. There's not going to be a Cybertruck this year. And if there somehow is, it's either going to use 2170s and they're going to sell 5 units, or it's going to be produced at Fremont or something. I don't know. Cybertruck, in general, Cybertruck doesn't excite me. I know it would be crazy to see those on the road, and maybe someday we will. But the pickup truck market is a very small market. It's just the United States, Japan, South Africa, Mexico, Canada. It's very small. But yeah, it's a weird design and everything. I know a lot of people like to talk about it. But core to that is our 4680 cells. Also, the Model Y out of Austin is supposed to have the structural pack with 4680.
Right.
Again, if 4680 isn't here, then what happens? We think that Tesla will sell a few cars, a few thousand, maybe up to 10,000 even, out of Texas this year. In terms of Berlin, that's not good, and there's a lot of political issues there. But Austin, I wouldn't count Austin out this year.
Okay.
Just I would count them out for anything that relies on 4680 that can't
Right,
have
the
2170s
structural,
or
yeah.
18650s. Yeah.
Yeah, a structural pack is what could be maybe a 2023 scenario. If you look at the compact car or the new Tesla $25,000 unit, do you think that's something that is still so far off in the horizon that it just isn't going to be here? And again, that goes back to most likely the 4680 as requiring a structural battery pack to move into that production.
So that $25,000 model, they actually said that would use an LFP battery. So
okay.
I'm a bit more bullish on that than if it were using 4680. I would be less bullish, especially because it'll take years for them to actually bring the cost down if they can even produce the thing in the first place. And again, they can produce a 4680 cell. Panasonic and LG Chem have said we can do it, but the dry coated electrode, no. That everyone is trying to do that. That's why Tesla acquired Maxwell, and that turned out to be a whole, nothing really came from that. Kind of smoke and mirrors, it seems. But
exactly.
But if the $25,000 model, if they buy, let's just say off the shelf LFP from Cattle, then they could do that.
They could pull it off.
And it would be a very low margin vehicle, but again, they're still struggling to get there. And how vertically integrated is Tesla really? That's the question. And they're not that vertically integrated. Now, they can have some really awesome factories, and they will have the most advanced factories in the world. No question about that for a long time. But that's not enough. It doesn't mean that you can produce a car for $15,000 and sell it for $25,000.
Yeah.
And
so
there are
what
companies
do you
that
think,
can do that.
Yeah, what do you think is the Achilles heel of Tesla right now?
In the short term, I think it's China, their reputation in China. China's everything for them.
Okay.
If that continues poorly, that could be really disastrous for Tesla.
Okay.
Longer term, well, I guess midterm, I would say for Tesla, it's not making the 4680. And robotaxi is definitely baked into their valuation. And that may not come to fruition. But again, I say this a lot. Tesla still has the best level 2 ADAS system. They do need a driver monitoring camera, as now I'm seeing some of these accidents. But there's no one that comes close. You can't say that like Super Cruise is really as good as Autopilot.
Right.
But in the midterm, yeah, 4680. If they can't do that, that's a bad sign. Longer term, competition. Tesla right now is riding off of, they still are dominating market share in the US and in some of their other markets that aren't nearly as big. But in the two biggest markets in Europe and in China, they're losing market share like crazy. And that they also had a really high market share. And now the competition has actually come, especially in China. But if they can't have competitive models there, then that's not good, and especially if they're charging more for
Right.
it. So that's why I think people fall back to Tesla as a, SaaS, Tesla as a service, but Tesla software as a service. That is something that right now is a strong suit for Tesla, but again, relative to whom? In China, a lot of these vehicles, they have little interactive devices that can talk to you and everything, and their ears move and things that wouldn't sell in the United States. But they have that already. They have open source, open platform systems. Huawei now has their entire app store now on some of these vehicles. You can watch videos. The in-car karaoke, by the way, BYD was doing that 4 years before Tesla copied that. But when Tesla cars do this, people freak out and they go, it's the greatest thing ever. Whoa, you can watch Netflix and YouTube in your car. That's cool, but there are a lot of companies doing that right now. So when you compare it, still though, I just drove the Volkswagen ID4 2 weeks ago. It was not a good car. That's not comparable to a Model Y. It was an okay car, but they're not there yet. But these companies really in China and Europe, they are there. They're already better. Yeah. Like I said earlier, there are a dozen cars that I'd buy over a Tesla if I lived in China. So that's the real long-term Achilles heel for Tesla. And I don't know if Tesla's stock price is going to crash from that or even maintain where it is. I think hopefully others will catch up to that and they will be valued more similarly. And that's, again, why I say BYD, biggest company in the world by 2050.
Yeah. So, I mean, Tesla's stock price has taken a hit, obviously, from Q1. It took an immediate hit after the quarterly earnings call, it rebounded a little bit, and then now, again, this week, it's down again. I mean, do you think we could see the $500 mark for Tesla in 2021?
Yes.
Something in the okay. So you're like me. I'm looking at some $500 stock prices for Tesla.
Yeah,
that would
I'd be a buyer
pretty devastating to a lot of people. Sure.
Yeah, but also you do have to. It's relative. Tesla's down 10% year to date. Some other EV makers are down a lot worse. Like Xiaopeng's down 43, 44%. Li is down pretty much the same. Even BYD is down 25%. So Tesla's actually riding it out. NIO's down 29%. Tesla's is faring okay right now. But again, there's just not a lot happening. We really the second half of this year will be where I think things really shift. And if that means Tesla coming down to the valuations of some of, now that there actually are comps out there, that Wall Street feels comfortable with, because this thing has exploded and no one knows how to value Tesla. It's crazy. It's trading at 800 times earnings. I mean, it's a growth company, but again, they make 4 models and they make some solar and they repackage energy storage. But it's just a car company. The other just car companies will catch up in valuation, I think, and they'll meet somewhere in the middle. Tesla will always be for a long time. I think for the next half decade, Tesla will be the most valuable automaker in the world, just because it's Tesla. But that's not enough. Yep. That's not compelling for a lot of people. So I think we may see it.
Yeah, because I think there's so many people. Yeah, there's so many people looking out to 2030, 2040. I mean, the evolution of the automotive manufacturing market in general being pretty much displaced and replaced by that period of time. Last topic here, and that is Model S, Model X. I was hoping to get a Model X this year. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Do you feel like this is the first time I've seen a car company almost go a full year cycle without releasing their 2 top line vehicles? Because it looks like we may not see X and S, if we're lucky, third quarter, at least at scale, where you could go get one, order one and get it within at least 8 weeks, type scenario. What are your thoughts on S and X?
So, well, first of all, Model X is the car that Tesla even admits it regrets ever making. It was a nightmare for them. It's a crazy car. But I even traded my Model X in for a Model Y, and the Model Y is the best car that I've owned from Tesla.
I love my
And
Model Y.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. The doors can be really annoying in the Model X. But yeah. So those cars, the plaid versions, I'm shocked when I see a performance Model X. It just doesn't make sense on the road.
Right.
But the plaid Model S is awesome, and I may even buy a plaid Model S. It depends if it's going to use 2170s or 4680s. The plaid plus, that is.
Yeah.
Plaid, we know, is just going to use 2170s or 18650s. So I mean, yeah, it really shows you how Tesla's not as vertically integrated as people may have thought, because they can't even refresh these models. Typically, to really refresh properly a model, it costs about $1 billion per model. And so Tesla has not put that in to refreshing these models, and it shows. But they can squeeze out. They have a lot of great engineers that can really get the full potential from these battery cells and the battery pack and the motors. So, yeah, I think that they may. It's been very disappointing. Remember, they were supposed to have these cars in February.
Yep.
And it just keeps getting pushed back, and I just don't know for what. In the beginning, I thought it was because of the yoke steering wheel, and I'd heard that they had to re-crash test it and everything. Seems like it's more than that. Every single mule or leaked photo that we see in the wild of one of these test cars, the wires are hanging out of them. So I don't know what's taking them so long. I would like to see them. I may want to own one soon, but yeah, it's not a huge worry. I think it worries a lot of investors more than it does but yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, and I think you're right. They've kind of hit the home run with the Model 3 and Y, and of course they're kind of camping out on that. And there needs to be some more innovation. I know they're struggling with solar. There was a lot of things in the earnings call. The crypto thing just seemed a little out of place. In the sense that they kind of used it as a crutch to kind of get earnings into a position. I know a lot of people, well, hey, they still outperformed share price, all those kind of things. Sure, of course, they're Tesla. They're the most valued car company in the world. They should be absolutely killing it in all aspects. And I understand, the scenarios, they're trying to change the world, at the same time. So there's a lot of that. What do you think Elon's going to be up to this weekend?
I mean, it scares me, but you don't see any other executives of companies on SNL. So that speaks to Tesla's brand.
Yeah, there's something there.
Yeah.
This will be fun to watch.
I am excited. I don't know if it will be good or bad, but he's a pretty awkward guy. But yeah, he doesn't. SNL, the way I understand it, is the host doesn't get to choose the skits. So I think that at least is good. Okay. He may have a say, but
they're going to do a Doge skit. Come on. They're going to do a Doge skit. They have to.
I know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, Taylor Ogan, it's been great having you on the show, man. Great in-depth conversation here. So definitely want to get you back on as things start to roll out in the EV space here on TechPath. So thanks for stopping in.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. All right, you guys are listening in over on the podcast right now, maybe tuning in over on Spotify. Hit that follow button. That'll get our podcast in your queue, and as you're sitting there in your Tesla, at your supercharging, you drop into the Spotify, boom, there's TechPath. You're going to get all that. Otherwise, tune in right here on YouTube. Of course, we want you to subscribe, share this to a friend of yours, say, hey, you guys got to check out the show. It's really moving in a lot of different directions in terms of the technology that we covered. Really what we try to do here is cover the innovative technologies that are changing our society, and that's everything from finance to EVs, robotics, etc. If you have an idea for the show, send us a note to producer@revernetworks.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter @PaulBaron. I'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.